tribe. How's it going? Um, so I just wanted to share about personal love rituals today, and I suppose as a little reminder of their importance, that our default settings when things happen, when we get stressed out, when challenges occur, when maybe when people behave in ways that we're not expecting, it is in those stressful situations that we can often go back to our default settings. And yet I try to always remind myself as well that we want to establish this sort of foundational belief that life gets better and better, right? We really want to use that affirmation. Life gets better and better. And it does, because we live in an sort of infinitely eternally expanding universe. So we too are expanding, and that is really getting better and better because we're always getting more aware, right? So even when we appear to go back to a default setting, we're never going back to exactly where we came from. There's always something a little different, right? Because of life experience. So I think of it like we might plateau and then we go up, and then we're here and then we go up, and then we're here and then we go up, right? And every time we go up, we're like, yeah, awesome. And then we plateau. And because we've just been going up and we hit a plateau, we often feel as though we've gone back, but we've actually just kind of plateaued out. We've not really gone back. So it's important that we kind of remind ourselves of that. And that's also a huge part of this step, right? Like establishing personal love rituals, whether it's the way you make your coffee in the morning or the way you put lotion on your skin after a shower. It could be, it it really is about the intention. You know, for me, a big part of my personal love ritual is waking up and, cleaning my face and putting makeup on, and sometimes having my coffee and sitting in meditation. And the thing that's happened after diligent practice, and certainly with the self love, personal love rituals, establishing those love rituals 8 years ago or 7 years ago, and establishing to them to the point that they become the new default. So now when stressful situations come up, the defaults are like having a bath. The defaults are withdrawing into meditation. The defaults are, well, and the beautiful thing is, or the paradox for my journey of sort of obsessive food and food and body image issues, weirdly now, like a live ritual can be actually having a chippy or having, like, because the freedom and liberation around food is such a joy that now that can be a personal love ritual, like having indulgences or having things that I used to be fearful of, to be able to indulge and appreciate and love the sensuality and the pleasure of our senses, right? Because here's the thing as well about a lot of the kind of spiritual teachings, is that there is a huge thread in among our religious and spiritual communities about the denial of desire and temptation. Certainly when our temptations are destroying us, that could be a very relevant thing to address and to look at. However, when our desires are human, so I'm thinking specifically about like a sexual desire, and how in the Catholic faith we deny that, and we proclaim kind of celibacy as superiority and supremacy, right? And as we evolve, we're realizing that denying our natural, inherent human desires is distorted. It distorts our reality and can actually create more toxicity and dysfunction. So the personal love rituals are largely to do with healing, returning to your essence, your vital, joyful, peaceful essence, the part of you that actually allows you to feel good and bad, light and dark, right? This part of you that just is pretty much always peaceful. It just is. It's always connected, it's always calm, it's always sort of deep there, witnessing everything quietly and peacefully. So we can always tune into that. And the personal love rituals are sort of the things that help you just be there. So you're okay with the fact that today you want to have ice cream and chips, and you're okay with today the fact that you want to have a kale salad. You're okay with today the fact that you're super sleepy and want to have lots of naps. You're okay because today you're feeling energized and you want to go, right? So it's like any of the little actions, intentions, affirmations that drop us back into the, this is where I am, and this is okay. It's okay to be where I am. Because that's love. That's acceptance. That's what all this stuff is really about, is like this core sense of love. This like intrinsic core sense. It's like how we imagine the perfect parent or the perfect mother. Super loving, unconditional, like supportive, nurturing, fun, like playful. We just think of all of those lovely qualities, and we practice harnessing them within ourselves. That's what these love rituals are about, instead of our not anti-love rituals, like the rituals that are born out of our own shame and darkness, or the rituals that are born out of our fear and trauma and disconnection, right? Those patterns are the ones that we're like, I see you, shame. I see you, guilt. I see you, anger. I see you, self-loathing. It's those ones that we just got to be really committed to looking at with love and being like, hey, listen, you've been hating on me for a long time. It's time to stop. You just, the love is like for us to yoke that. And it so is it's so often counterintuitive, but like to be able to sit with the energy of shame, of guilt, of whatever, like however icky it is, that we can sit there with the ick vibes and just be like, inside our own self, with that energy of like, get away, don't want to feel it, don't want to do that. And then you just sit there feeling the anxiety, feeling the depression, feeling the self-disgust, feeling the anger, rage, whatever, and like just being like, I hear you, I see you, I understand why you're angry, or I understand why you're, feeling upset right now. It's that. Always. So if there's people in our world treating us poo-poo, or people, yeah, mainly just that, people in our world that are, the expression that pull the rug out from under us, or who, maybe show a side of them that we didn't see. It's like, we can just love ourselves and accept people for who they are, and know the difference. Know the difference of someone is on their love journey. And as in, how much love can they really share? How much love people can sit around and talk about love and light and peace and all that kind of stuff, but it's different talking versus radiating and extending love. And there's a difference, you guys. And I know, because I can feel it and witness it in people's lives. And yeah, swear to God, if we're not putting in practical action, or inspired action rather. So, and that's a big part of it, is often why people don't see change is because they don't take the final step. They don't actually move in the direction, because when it comes to changing the physical reality, that's often where the biggest our fears really start to come up, because it looks like we're dissolving stability, or it looks like we're dissolving, very often it will look like we're dissolving something that we've maybe spent our whole lives creating, right? So it's the love, relationship, and connection inside that is the primary, really all there is. That's the most important thing. And so it's that connection that you're establishing those personal love rituals with, so that it's like that connection that you're wanting to be most connected, most important. That's the most important connection, because everything feeds off of that. And then when that becomes the most important connection, even though we all have our different ways of learning and different lessons to learn, it's that connection which is always guiding us. So I might end up being really hurt out of a situation, but at the end of the day, I still know it's me teaching myself the lessons that I need to learn for this lifetime. It's not ultimately about attacking, judging, or even fixing, or even helping another human being. And that, again, from old paradigm perspective, that can seem really selfish. That can seem really like, but again, that whole selfishness comes from the false perception of separation. So that kind of judgy selfishness has to do with a slave mentality. Like, you're meant to be a slave, and unless you're slaving, you're not a good slave, right? You're not, you need to give more. You need to break your back. You need to work hard. And so the new paradigm is really that we are manifestors. Physical labor is actually an efficient form of doing, especially because of where we have the potential to move to as a human collective with more advanced technological and energy resources, right? So how we understand manifestation, how we understand ourselves in the nature of this reality, is part of what we're traversing right now as a human collective consciousness. And simply put, our personal love rituals can revolutionize our lives. Our personal love rituals can radically shift our existence, but we have to do them. So we have to actually make a vision board, and actually create a meditation station, and actually, go out and buy the stuff for the meditation station, and then actually meditate, and then actually practice thinking positive thoughts about yourself, or actually practice thinking, high vibe imagination of you're awesome, because it is you. And it's so important for us, like, the more sensitive we are, like, to not be pulled under by people's negativity, to not be sucked into it, because that's still often what we might think is the dominant energy stream of human consciousness, is this miserable, greedy, mean. And yet, this is the thing, you guys, that's what we're healing. That's what we're healing. We're healing that false perception of the disconnected human greed. That's just a story that served a certain story, right? It served a certain agenda regarding a story. So, like, this is the story we want to tell of a fearful humanity that destroys itself. That's the story of, like, perpetual war and, pardon me, Armageddon. And then you can kind of tell there's, like, this other story being perpetuated regarding the new paradigm. And a new civilization. So, you know, there's lots of options for us. The weirdest thing about all this is just the weirdness of it, is that we choose, we get to tell the stories. And this, I don't know why I'm thinking about this right now, but it's like this whole thing, and I guess it's one of those weird insights I get when I observe humanity, is like, we often, and I guess it's obvious because of the way that we're indoctrinated, like we're all put into schools or whatever, and that sort of, like, everybody walks around thinking that, like, that's the world. So we all sort of, at different times in our lives, we assume. So assumptions are thoughts based on core beliefs that, again, we assume are correct or right. Assumptions are never correct or right. They're just another extended thought. You know, so an assumption is an unknown variable, but it's assumed. So it's you know, you're making that assumption. And the thing is, like, our beliefs are just beliefs. Creation isn't solid like that. It's malleable, it's ever flowing, it's infinite, it's eternal. So us getting sort of fixated about, like, the rightness and wrongness, once you recognize that infinity, or that, yeah, that infinite eternal spiral of life, you're not so, yeah, gripped on in fear. You're not gripped in fear because there's no deadline, because it's infinite. And you get to make it up. That's the trippiest bit, is that we think, like, oh no, those people are gonna think of me because there's, like, a right way to be, and we're all like checking, is everyone the right way to be? And if they're not, like, are they judging me for not being the right way of being? But everybody's thinking that, and everybody's walking around in fear of everybody else judging everybody else, but thinking that everybody's just judging them, but actually everyone's just judging them. You know, it's like, that's like the weirdest thing. And we're all just creating our own. But once we start unraveling that, we can create whatever we want. And it's kind of cool and mind-blowing and fun. It would appear we have a bit of a process. We have a bit of, all of us seem to have some unique way of going from slave, disempowered, darkness, suffering patterns to more free, more loving, more abundant, and more shiny, to shine light for people, you know? So it's like there's this this pathway. People would call it ascension or enlightenment or healing, whatever. Move in that direction, and then more move in that direction, and then more move in that direction. So establishing your personal love rituals, you guys, really making that like a thing. Make sure, even if you just start with buying a meditation cushion, or putting down a candle by your bed that makes you think of loving yourself, or put a journal beside your bed and write down all the things you love about your life, or write down what would you like to see in your life that would make you love your life even more. Because the more you love your life, the more love you radiate, and then the more you love you share. So that's the whole, like, mind fuck about it, right? It's like, we're all like, don't be miserable because it makes miserable people, or sorry, don't be happy because it makes miserable people uncomfortable. But then being miserable makes more, just spreads more misery. So we have to find a way to break through lots of ego bullshit, lots of veils of suffering and misery, lots of guilt around being free and joyous. And then we become free and joyous, and we radiate that, and we share that into the world, and then we radiate that into the world. You know, imagine if all of humanity just had all these different personal love rituals, and everybody was just taking care of themselves, and then everybody could look after one another. And because we actually loved the beings that we were, we wouldn't be projecting a whole bunch of hatred and disgust and conflict. Ultimately, you know, we wouldn't be radiating conflict into the reality, or projecting conflict into the reality that we share. So I hope that was useful to you. Keep loving, and remember this fine line, as far as, yeah, imagine a perfect day, and imagine doing all your personal love rituals, and you feel amazing and you're wonderful and da da da, and then a day later or 2 days later something happens that triggers you. You fall off, the personal love bandwagon, right? And then even that, practice loving that. So So say it's like you've done something and then you fall back into a default setting. Love that. Be like, wow, I've come a long way. I haven't done this default in a while, or maybe the default feels a bit different to you now. Maybe the default setting actually ain't so bad, right? So just notice yourself, and the most important thing is just accept it all. Just accept all of it. Just choose to accept yourself and love yourself no matter what, and then see what happens. So have a great day, you guys. I hope that was enjoyable for you. I hope that was useful to you, and I'm just sending you lots of love. Speak to you soon, you guys. Take care. Bye.